Patrick Lencioni, I just want to say thanks for spending some time with our ExecuNet members. I wanted to ask you a few questions about some of your big ideas. You talk about structure and the threat of bureaucracy setting in on organizations. How do you achieve clarity while sort of balancing, the need for some structure and system with a need to sort of break that up a bit?
Yeah, I think the way you asked that, Joe, is perfect, because the first thing is, do you have clarity about what you're trying to be? Many companies put bureaucracy in place without a purpose, and so I always say, do you really know what your values are, what your strategy is, what the number one priority is in the organization right now? Build your structure around that. Then it becomes much easier to limit it. But when you're building structure for the sake of structure, and frankly, it happens in lots of organizations, there is no way to know if it's too much, because none of it works. So the first key is what are we trying to do? Build just enough structure and say, yeah, that's it, and then stop. Okay. And it's probably going to be less structure than you think.
Well, I guess part of that structure, that bureaucracy, is politics, the internal maneuvering within organizations. Tell me about how you achieve some healthy disruption there in terms of the political status quo. How do you, sort of, move beyond or try to inspire people to dispose with politics and do what's good for the organization?
Well, politics ultimately comes from one place, and that's the senior executive team in any organization.Ey're either engaging in it themselves or committing a sin of omission and permitting it. But since everybody reports up through that team, that's the only place where it can be eliminated. And so what they have to do is ask themselves, are we a cohesive team? Are we are we agreeing to disagree and then sending other people in the organization out to fight bloody, unwinnable battles with one another? Or are we really clear? And are we creating the kind of environment where politics doesn't work? So when executives go, there's too much politics in this organization, it's starting with them, either because they're doing it or they're permitting it.
Okay. Tell me more about what you've described as meeting stew.
Meeting stew, yeah. Meeting stew is when we throw every potential ingredient from the cupboards that we can find into one meeting, if you will, and wonder why it doesn't taste so good, to mix metaphors there. Meeting stew is when we have a staff meeting, we talk about administrative topics, strategic ones, tactical ones, development of our employees, potential ideas in the market. We're talking about everything, and we mix them together, and then people are wondering, why are we not making any decisions here? The truth of the matter is, human beings, our minds don't work that way. We have to have more clarity. When we have a strategy meeting, we need to limit it to that so we can roll up our sleeves, dig in, and talk about it. And if somebody gets us off track with a tactical thing, we got to say, no, that's not for here. More likely, it's during a tactical staff meeting when somebody wants to bring up a really interesting, sexy issue. We have to go, no, that's not what this meeting's about. We're not here to question our strategy. We're here to implement it. Okay. We need to have a different kind of meeting to talk about different kinds of things. We have to just partition things better.
Okay, so you're talking about disrupting pre-existing behaviors and tendencies to some extent. Tell me a little bit more about the role that forgiveness plays in the work environment, and particularly as people try to delicately balance, people issues with smart business decisions.
Forgiveness is one of the things I look for in the people I hire, because I know that if we're operating at maximum capacity, if we're really doing a good job, we are going to step over the line sometimes and do things that annoy one another. No people, no group, no family, no organization is going to avoid that. If they're avoiding it, then they're not actually accomplishing what they could accomplish. I want to know that the people that I work with, especially if I step over the line, certainly I know that my capacity to forgive is great. And so I look for other people who, if I say to them, I'm really sorry what I said to you yesterday was wrong, or I didn't think well enough about you, and I didn't do this right, I need to know that they can say, thank you for apologizing, I'm fine, let's get back to work. If they hold a grudge, if they struggle to forgive and to be forgiven, it's gonna make the whole team slow down and not be able to operate at peak performance.
Okay, so it sounds like if you are really self-aware as a leader, forgiveness becomes a currency that you can use to respect others, engage with others, and get them to move forward.
Absolutely, but it requires that a leader be vulnerable. This is one of the most important things that I say. Leaders have to get comfortable being vulnerable. That seems very counterintuitive. They're like, but what do you mean? I'm supposed to be strong. I'm supposed to be smart. I'm supposed to be right. And the truth of the matter is, be as as smart as you can be, but when you're not the smartest one in the room, or when you make a decision that's wrong, you be the first to admit it. Demonstrate vulnerability. Apologize when you do something wrong. When we can be vulnerable as leaders, we do two things. One, we inspire others around us to do the same. Two, we build credibility. They will walk through walls of fire with us. But vulnerability is one of those counterintuitive things that many leaders struggle to embrace, and they end up making their lives much harder.
Okay. Last question would relate to the world of networking, sorting through all the distractions out there, and really determining who outside of your existing network might bring you some additional value or new perspective. Do you see that that's becoming either more important for organizations or for individuals as they grow and develop as leaders?
Well, I think both. I think that technology is driving a lot of this, but I think that the boundaries between organizations, because people are free agents more than ever, as those boundaries are getting fuzzier and fuzzier. And I think that our ability as individuals, and just as much as organizations, to network and to stay in touch, and because you just never know. And we have this saying at our company, it's just like, give away the business. And half the time people will say, but you could have monetized that, or maybe you should have done it. We're like, good things will happen. We don't know how, we don't know who. Stay in touch with people, help them when they need help. Don't worry about how it's going to come back to you, because it will, in a way that you can't possibly calculate the ROI.
Okay.
So I think that networking is more important than it's ever been.
Okay. Wow. Great. All right. Well, Patrick, thanks for your time.